Recording in progress.
Sorry.
I turn this mouse. Wait.
Zan.
Future. No. Frame yourself. I don't care how I look.
More people coming in and see them.
You look beautiful, Anne.
My hair gets thinner every day. I just don't know. Interesting things.
I don't know. I can be in there myself. Well, you're not. I'm here. It's one.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's Peggy.
Don always visits from some exotic land.
Or some picture of some exotic land.
Yeah. I was laughing because it's like 3 people who could be here are all counseling right now. So Karen and Dave and Ruth are all counseling at the moment. We were talking to Dave this morning. Of course, the hurricane sort of went over them last night, and said it was a lot of yard damage and things like that, tornado warnings and stuff. But he thought he might have to cancel because he wasn't sure, his appointment today because he wasn't sure he's going to have power. But he's doing okay. Doing better than my sister's place. My sister was at my house last night, her and her husband, but they live in Sanibel Island in Florida. And we were sitting there watching the cameras last night in their house as a storm surge just went into their basement.
Yeah, I heard that Fort Myers of the north got hit too.
Yeah. Further north you go on as you head towards the curve there at the Panhandle, that got hit really bad.
Did it wash the bridge out again?
For Sanibel? No, not for
Mm-hmm.
Sanibel. No.
Good.
Yeah. Because they didn't
That was
take
the
a direct.
quickest I'd ever seen anything be built. 2 weeks last year.
It was,
right.
but they were not allowed on the back on the island to even see their house for weeks
Oh, really?
when that
Oh, that's
hurricane
right.
hit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but my sister sat there last night on the couch as we're watching the video and just looked at her husband and said, "We're moving."
Oh.
It's like, this is 2 hurricanes. We're done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because their house, I think he said their house is like 3 feet above
Sea level.
above high tide. Yeah. So it's like, okay.
Oh, gee, that's rough.
Though all of my family's been down. My family's been down to see them, and they keep. I said, okay, well, I'm going to come down and after open enrollment, come down and visit. So I better get down there quick before she decides to move. So, okay. Well, we got what I would assume to be most everybody is going to be here today. For this, we're going to cover just a lot of things in some of them very quickly, but then we're going to cover, especially when we get into what's new in the Medicare, what's going to be changes for 2025, what we're going to see in open enrollment on those changes. We'll cover those at great length. But let me start and share the PowerPoint to keep me on track of some things here. So the first thing I want to bring up is there's a change in how we're going about seeing clients. It's a slight change. Obviously, we're still seeing people via Zoom, With the Zoom calls, if you're working Zoom, we're trying to find out from all of the veteran counselors because there basically is there's the regular type of people who are get on Zoom, you see them, they see you, but there is the ones that call in on their telephone through a telephone line, and so they can't see what you're doing, and you can't see them. So it's essentially, I guess, the telephone call when you're using Zoom. Some of some counselors are okay with that. Some are, yeah. And when I say okay, nobody likes it. Let's just be straight about it. Nobody likes it, but sometimes it's the best way for the client. The only way they can do that. So we're just going to double check with everybody along the path here of who's okay if the person has to call them telephone and who prefer that they didn't have people on Zoom with with the telephone. And then we've indicated that on the index for the scheduler, so they try to make sure that they meet your guys' wishes when it comes to that as far as the types of counseling.
They can also call, they can email me if they want, if they know, and let me know.
Yes. Also, yeah, Lenore's, well, let me back up.
Okay.
Lenore tries to get out and we drag her back in. We are like the mafia or something with that because Lenore has been hired back full time through open enrollment. And so she tried to escape, but we got her back. So we are very excited about that. So she's been helping a lot in a lot of aspects, but one of them is helping with the communication when counselors or when we're trying to figure this kind of stuff out. So email Lenore and say, yeah, I'm okay if somebody has to call in on Zoom, but and then there are a couple of counselors who's like, if I have to call the client on the phone and stuff, I guess I'll do it. But we would prefer to stay away from that as much as possible because that's the least preferable method of communication because of the restrictions it has with what the client understands. So, okay, so that going. Let's talk about in person now for a quick second. We have the Fashion Square Mall like we've done the last couple of years. However, the Fashion Square Mall has changed its hours, and now they don't open till 11 o'clock. And so that has meant that that's take a chunk of an hour out of what we would normally be counseling over there. And in fact, we can't even get into the mall until through the back hallway until an hour before, or a half hour before when we start. So we can't even get in there till 10:30. But there are all kinds of they're just restricting down. We have to even use a different back hallway than the one behind our place. So we'll show you that when we get to close to being in person things. So we have option 2, which we developed is that at the JABA building, there's a space in the back behind our hallway that it was the Shining Star Daycare for years, and we no longer have that. So there is a space there which we colloquially refer to as the studio. It's a big room, and we can put 6 counseling stations in there without being too crowded. And so that's what we're going to do. And so for the in-persons at JABA, we can start those at 9 o'clock in the morning. And so we'll have those. What we are doing or preferring to do is that we're keeping all of the newbies and returning open enrollment counselors that need to get the rust off or so. We're keeping them at the mall where we can supply more supervision for them and provide more help for them. The JABA place is for veteran counselors or experienced returning open enrollment counselors to come and be in there and do theirs because you're going to need less help when it comes to clients, but we're always going to run into clients that we got questions about. So there will always be someone like Lenore or Steve or Karen that's seeing clients while they're there, but are the available? They're the sort of the key go-to person at that point to be able to ask questions, to go, hey, can I interrupt you for a second? We got this client, and what do we do here? And that's very similar to how we had worked the mobile unit towards the last couple of years. We did the mobile unit, so we knew it was going to work okay because it worked okay with the mobile unit. So if you want to see anybody on these calls like that, if you want to be seeing people in person, you are welcome to use the mall space, but you are the ones that are encouraged and allowed to be at the here at JABA and seeing people in person in that studio. And it's less restrictive on time. And sheer fact, we've got a much narrower window at the mall, like 11 o'clock, starting the last appointments at like 3 o'clock. That kind of really limits our hours there, but we can go from 9 to through the afternoon here at the mall. So it does give you more options when it comes to time for in-persons. So we're very excited. We're always out in front and planning things. And sometimes, a couple of times, I've gotten in trouble over the years because I'm in front of leadership. Like we've ran too far out in front of leadership before leadership had a chance to figure something out. It was actually at a leadership meeting that they decided on this, and I hadn't even asked for it. This Ginger came back to me and said, hey, I want to let you know what we had talked about at leadership meeting. We're going to give you a bigger space at the JABA building to do counseling. Where I was like, oh, okay, we'll take that. So that's there. So if I go to the scheduler, let me stop sharing on this and pull the 24 scheduler out here. There it came up. And so here's our index as normal. If you're logged in under your JABA email, the scheduler comes right up for you. But that's one of the nice security things that we're got with this 2024 scheduler. Unless I've invited you on your personal email, you to get to this, most people have to go through their JABA email. So that secures this down a little tighter, just for confidentiality and stuff. So on any given day, if I go to the 15th, okay. It's funny, somebody's on the scheduler right now, somebody new, because they're doing exactly what everybody does when they're new and trying to move between dates on here. They keep hitting the plus button over here instead of moving the arrows. And so they keep adding, they're adding sheets. So let's get those out of there. So here, when it starts out at the top, it'll have the studio and it'll have the 6 spots and the times that you can be in there. And again, it's a pull down menu with all of the counselors on it. And you can put yourself in or start typing your name in and it'll bring it up. And then we have the Fashion Square Mall, like we have in the past, and all the tables at the Fashion Square Mall. And you can see that there's people filling themselves out here for this. And then we get down to, and what we're used to, the Zoom section here for if you want to be doing Zoom. So that works out. You will see how it is indicating some people here, like Colt has said, I'm okay if somebody is going to call in on a phone into the Zoom meeting. And so there, we defaulted everybody to not that, to just give me regular Zooms until you tell us that you're okay with taking a phone call. Well, okay with somebody calling into the Zoom and being on the Zoom through their phone line, not being able to see you. So again, scheduler works like it has in the past. You can jump back and forth the index, jump to any date, and it will take you to there, and you can fill yourself out there. And then people get scheduled, and like always, you got your links to the report that will take you to the client's information. And so that is all working the same for that. Any questions on this scheduler or the new in-persons or anything? Nope. Okay.
Oh, wait, Randy, one question. You said
Yep.
you can only get to the scheduler through your Outlook email?
Well, if you went to the scheduler, and I've sent you the link, right?
Right.
And
I've
if
done
you're
that.
logged in as you, in your Outlook thing, and you click on the link, it'll just open up.
Okay.
But if you were jumped on the computer and you weren't logged in on your JABA account, it'll ask you to log in on your JABA account.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes. So that's how that will go. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing that scheduler, and I'm going to come back to my PowerPoint and just talk a second about, a couple of things you guys can do to help the new counselors coming along. We have in their training schedule to get ready, their last thing they could do on October 9th or 10th is they could jump on Zoom and have a veteran counselor be their fake client for them to practice on. And so if I'll show you this, let me just quickly go up. Sorry, jumping shares here, but let me go to this current scheduler. And I'm on October 10th here, and there it came up. You can see down in the Zoom things, I've just set up a thing for training, and you just put in, like Steve has, okay, somebody, if they want to come in, hang on, there should be hours here, come in on hours, at 11 o'clock, the new counselor can practice counseling on me, and there's Steve again there. And so if you want to or can fill yourself in on either October 9th or 10th to help out with them, we don't have we got a good size. We got 13 people in the newbie class. We have a ton of returning people. If all works out and everybody where we're at right now, and see, we're going to have 54 counselors. So, but the newbies could use your help as being practice people there. And that's just on the current scheduler. So, and then the other part is at the mall, should have stayed on that chair, at the mall, the first 10 days or so, or 9 or 10 days, let me get to the bottom here. We have where people are there to help me help them. Lenore and Dawn are there on this date. Really, by the time that we get out to, towards the end of October-ish or so, we just sort of need, one person. And then after that, we're okay. Let's see where we are on the 22nd here. Lenore's there, so we're probably okay there. But if you want to glance and look, well, maybe we could use a little help on that date. By the time we get to Wednesday or Thursday, they should mostly be getting the rhythm of things over there. But it's really good. Yeah, with your 24th, we could use a little bit of help here. If you want to come over to the mall and just walk around and help with it. And you guys know this because you've been counseling a long time. But part of it when you were new to counseling was you didn't know what you didn't know. And so, having veteran counselors walk around, and if somebody raises their hand, they go, oh, I got a question. What do I do with this? Great. You can step in and help them with that. But a lot of times, though, it is you're walking behind them and you hear them and they're just off a little in what they're saying. And it's like you just inject yourself into the conversation and say, oh yeah, da, 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 and just kind of steer it back on course. And it's a good opportunity for them to train. A lot of times after the client sits down, you sit down with them for a couple of minutes and just go, yeah, like this, not like that, and stuff. And it really helps them be better counselors much faster. And it prevents us from making mistakes with clients. So having a little bit of support there the first 10 days or so is helpful to do that. But by the time we get at day 11 or so, I'm there at the mall and they've gotten enough, rhythm on what they're doing that I can keep track of them. So that works out okay. I know Steve and Dawn and Lenore have done that in years past, but anybody could jump in and help with that. It would, if you just see a gap on those days. So, okay. Back to the PowerPoint. One of the issues that we've had 1 year years ago, and then we had it again last year. And that was once we got it through into open enrollment, week 2, after week 2, 3, 4, 5, we hit a run of like, this is how many people we're seeing every
west
day.
on Yorktown Drive toward Brandywine Drive.
Oops.
Sorry.
So much driving. That's okay. So, but, we hit a good line. But it doesn't happen every year, but a couple years it happened, and last year it did, was we didn't get out of the gate real strong. It was like we were seeing a lot less people in the first week and a half, 2 weeks, where people were just sort of tentative, didn't get themselves on the schedule to see. It wasn't that we didn't have clients to see. It was just not enough people had gotten themselves on the schedule early, in the sense they kind of eased themselves into open enrollment. And there's always that, you just kind of see a big gap there, where, between the line and where we are, and that's just a bunch of clients that will never get seen. So if we can make sure we come out of the gate strong, that would be helpful. So get yourselves on early in the open enrollment period. The other thing, all of your passwords got reset and they weren't supposed to be, but there was a bit of a miscommunication. There's a breakdown in communication. When I asked Roger to make sure that the returning counselors had their passwords up and running and reset, he reset everybody's password. So I assume most of you have gotten a communication on what your password currently is for your JABA email, and thus to be able to get in and see clients. If you're not, email Lenore, she'll get you the password. Everybody starts with the same password, and then you can change it. And so, but that didn't run as smoothly as we'd hoped. So, but yeah. Oh, well.
Randy, when did that happen?
That happened a couple of weeks ago or so.
Okay.
And then if you have been in the last week or two, you got the right password.
Thank you.
Yes. So, okay. So let's get into the meat. So how we're going to play out from here on out is I'm going to talk about some major changes that go into effect in 2025 concerning Medicare, prescription drug plans, open enrollment. Then we're going to just take a quick break, and then we're going to hit a bit of just reminders of things that we have to keep in mind when we're counseling during open enrollment, that, just a real refresher there. And then we're going to do a walkthrough. Lenore's put together a really very good walkthrough. If you find yourself sitting in front of a person who's on a Medicare Advantage plan, we've always kind of known what to do, but she's put it in a step-by-step process and wrote it out so that it's very helpful to go do this, do that, do the next thing. So we're going to cover that and then clean up a few things at the end. But let's talk about what's new and changes with Medicare that will be coming into effect. These all have to do with the Inflation Reduction Act that went into effect a few years ago and has rolled out different things that will affect Medicare over the course of 9 years. Some of them we've already seen. Insulin prices capped at $35 a month. Vaccines are available and free through your Medicare, where they might not have been before. Various things that go on with that. But there are a couple of big changes, actually really big changes that are happening this year. So in all the years that we have been doing this, we know this chart where it is, how does a Part D work? Well, you have an initial deductible if the plan has a deductible. Then you have your initial coverage period, which is when your drugs are all under whatever the negotiated rate is between the pharmaceutical company, the manufacturer, the insurance company, and then the pharmacy itself. So this is what the drug will cost you at that pharmacy. And then if you and the insurance company had spent $5,030, you went into the coverage gap, the donut hole, and where the prices went to a very strict 25, you pay 25% of retail price for that drug. And then you would go to catastrophic if you had spent $8,000. That is how it's been set up for years. We know that, we understand. It completely changes starting January 1. The new one looks like this. You still have the deductible period on drugs that are tier 3 or above. The new deductible for 2025 is $590 max. Obviously, it could be less, but it's maximum. Then you would go into your initial coverage period, and you would pay that negotiated rate on that plan at that pharmacy for that drug. And then when you spend $2,000 on your prescriptions, you've hit the out-of-pocket maximum. And anytime you go pick up prescriptions after that, they're free. So $2,000 cap. There is no donut hole anymore. There is no catastrophic. It's just straightforward here. Couple of things to make sure that we know in this. One is that $2,000 out-of-pocket maximum does include what you pay in the deductible period. It does not include the premiums you're paying for the plan. Now, again, the calculator is all going to calculate all this correctly for you, but it's just good to know what's going on because they'll ask questions. So the premium doesn't count to the $2,000. Here's another thing that doesn't count in the $2,000. If you're picking up a drug that is not on the formulary of your plan, it doesn't count to the $2,000. Now, if you pick up a drug on the formulary at a preferred pharmacy, at a in-network pharmacy or an out-of-network pharmacy, it's still all those. No matter what you pay for it, it's going to count towards the $2,000. But but if it's not on the formulary, it doesn't count to the $2,000. So, a lot of ways, there's a lot of things that are very much simple. This is going to be very good for people who are on some higher price drugs.
$590.
So the $590, yes, I heard that. The $590, whatever you're paying in the deductible period, that counts to the $2,000. Obviously, people who are on expensive drugs, especially if they're on a couple of expensive drugs, they're going to hit that $2,000 pretty quickly, and then it's going to be free for the rest of the year. People who are on low-tier drugs, maintenance drugs, or so, this is not going to necessarily have an effect on them, because they're not going to get anywhere near $2,000 anyhow. Lenore.
Randy?
Yeah.
Are you anticipating that the companies will just increase their premiums across the board?
We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
That's another slide.
Okay.
So, but for the out-of-pocket, I just want to make sure we understand this is how the chart works. So we put together a chart that has this on the top and this on the bottom, so that you'll have that available to be able to sit and explain to people going, this has changed. And now you can see the change. So I think that's a helpful document to have while counseling.
Randy,
yeah.
Explain to me again, an initial deductible when it says if it's equal to tier 3 or
above.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
below.
Randy,
Oh, sorry,
you've
I got
got
it
the
backwards.
wrong
I'll fix
symbol.
that. I was throwing that symbol in there too fast. I'll turn it.
Right.
Write a note, Lenore, that I'll turn that.
Okay.
Okay. But yeah, so as always, if you're on a tier 1 or a tier 2 drug and that drug is $2 in the initial coverage, the yellow part, you're paying $2 for it in the orange part too. And that's just then the same. I will have to say, and Lenore will back me up on this, we have seen incidences where the plan finder says it's a tier 2 drug, but it's treating it as far as in the deductible period as if it was a tier 3 drug. And we don't know why.
Ranger medicine.
Yeah. So it's like, this one should only be $2, but it's $11 on the plan finder, and we don't know why. I don't know if it's a mistake down below where it's saying the tier is tier 2 and it's not a tier 2 on that plan, or we don't know why it's doing it. But it's rare. It's not every client, but it's rare. But just giving you a heads up, we've seen that. Let me hit the next ones because there's 2 other big ones here I want to hit, and then we can go, how does this all play together? So one of the other things that they can do is they can opt in with their insurance company to what now has been called smooth their payments out over the course of the year. So if somebody, I'm looking in the middle column here, if somebody has a drug that's a tier 3 or so, and they're paying a lot for it in January because they're in the deductible period, and then February kind of get out of the deductible period, and then this would be this year because of the donut hole, they cruise down and they get $20, and then for a while, and then $80 if they hit the deductible, but now we won't even have a deductible period coming in. But their total is $876. They can choose to opt into a program with the insurance company to smooth out the payments. So they're still going to be paying $876. It's going to be more even throughout the year. The first couple of ones will fluctuate sort of weirdly because of the weird calculator it does, but it would smooth it out over the course of the year. Okay. You can't click anything on the plan finder to say, I want to do this. They have to contact the insurance company to say they want to do this. So let me explain more about the mechanics of how this works. So if you choose to be on this program, the smoothing out program, when you go pick your drugs up at the pharmacy, you don't pay the pharmacy anything. The insurance company will pay the pharmacy. You will get a bill every month from your insurance company for how much you're supposed to be giving them for your prescriptions with this smoothed out chart. And that's how it is supposed to work. We have been warned that there are perceived problems with this. One of them is going to be people are not going to understand that bill they get from their insurance company, and they may or may not pay it. They have 2 months to pay the bill. So they'll get a second notice going, hey, you owe us $72. And if they end up missing not paying it in time, then they'll be kicked out of the smoothing program. They will not be kicked off the plan, but they will be kicked off the smoothing program and will now have to pay at the pharmacy for their drugs. So we perceive that that will be a problem. We also know that pharmacists may or may not understand this when it comes to January. And when you go to pick up your drugs, they may still be trying to charge you for your drugs. And then you get a bill from your insurance company for the drugs. The training with the pharmacist, we have been told, has not been thorough. Though Lenore was talking to her pharmacist yesterday, and they were at least aware of it. So,
Not happy, but aware.
not happy about it, but aware of it. Obviously, if you change drugs throughout the year, or you pick up a drug that is something you only pick up periodically, it may throw this billing all out of whack, and make changes to it. So your bill may not be $72 every month. So you really do have to pay attention to what you have to pay. You can't set this up on auto pay either. It's just like, you got to pay. Here is the language that I've been processing. This is a very interesting program that is new for Medicare. It is something that in the long run may be really good. This year's the first year for it. Do you really, as a beneficiary, want to be the guinea pig for this program? Because this is the lab rat for this program, whatever, because it is, there are lots of potential breaking points on this program that may or may not be totally figured out and work well this year. I perceive that it'll work well in future years, but as a beneficiary, I would be a little cautious about choosing to do this. Now, it doesn't mean, in fact, it was kind of surprising. Lenore and I were on some trainings the last 2 days, and I think it was one of those where they were talking about the number of people who may be on this program, and it was really low compared to what I thought.
Yeah.
And that was from CMS. That was from Medicare itself. I was in a training, well, I was at a conference here a week or so ago. We had an organization that looks out for beneficiaries and keeps track of what's going on in Medicare and all this. They were really skeptical about this. So to back up and say things that we can't click it on the plan finder to say, I want to opt in on this program. The plan finder, though we haven't seen it yet, is supposed to have a button, which they're referring to as a wizard, which would allow you to click that and see how the pricing would spread out over the year to give you an estimate of what the pricing would be, different than how it would normally look. The wizard is not live. We've only seen demonstrations of it. It doesn't seem like there's any problem with it, as long as it functions correctly, as far as technically goes. But again, if they want to do this as a beneficiary, they have to contact the insurance company themselves.
Randy, doesn't that really make it nearly impossible for this thing to work effectively for anybody? I mean, first of all, you have to be enrolled in that company's plan before you can contact them, submit whatever it is you need to submit, get it approved, and get the word over to the pharmacy. By that point, you've already purchased your January meds and you've been slapped with a deductible for the year.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
As I said,
I mean, it's almost guaranteed not to work.
They want you to do it before January.
They do want you to do it before January.
So
Right,
Randy,
but that means that the client has to receive some communication from the plan,
so I was gonna say,
understand it, respond to it, and all. Yes, everybody would like it to be done before January, but that's not going to happen. I mean, if it can't happen at the time we enroll them, then I think it's guaranteed that they're not going to be able to benefit substantially from this. I mean, if you can't benefit until March, you've already,
Yeah. As I said, I
Yeah.
am of the inclination to steer people away from this.
So Randy, are you aware what kind of communications, I'm alluding to what Don was saying. Do you know what communications the plans are going to send enrollees about this particular smooth out?
This is what I've been told from NCOA, that's the organization I was talking about, that when people are receiving their notices about next year's plan right now, if the insurance company, by looking at the last 9 months of drugs they picked up, feel like this might be beneficial to the client, they will include something about it in their notice. But that's only if.
Right.
When somebody enrolls in the new plan, I am assuming that one of the pieces of paper buried in that big packet is going to be about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most of us have been through the first year of a change, a big change. It didn't go well.
Right. No, I'm just wondering how much the companies themselves are going to try to pressure and encourage enrollees to go with this.
I don't think they're going to pressure much at all because it puts a lot more work on them.
Okay.
And it costs them money.
Yeah, and it costs them money, right, Ruth?
So is it our obligation to tell all our clients about this option?
Nope.
No.
No.
Okay.
Nope. And again, we're as veteran counselors, we know the very specific client that if we thought this plan was going to work well, would be good for. Low income, have a high tier drug, so they're going to have a deductible, and that they're like, oh, I can't do that $400 at the beginning of the year. That would be the ideal client for this. And if they ask about it, we're going to say, well, here's what it's supposed to do. Just say, if you want to do it, this is fine. You do have to contact the insurance company. Just saying we've been told things to be a little skeptical about it until they get it all ironed out.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they specifically said that the people who are benefit the most are the people who are going to hit that $2,000 max.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, for us, a knowledge of counseling, it would also be people who are lower income.
Right. Lower income have a lot of output of money. That's where that smooth out's going to hit the best. Be the
and as
best.
I said, a year down the road from now, they may have got all the bugs out of this thing and it works well. But I would, if I was me, I wouldn't go on this thing.
Okay.
So, okay, let's talk about another change in the law. I need my air quotes, change in the laws in here. We have heard it, and it's not a secret from us that there's been talk that this year, they can't raise the premiums more than 6%. And I found out at the conference that that doesn't mean what it seems to be. And literally, and I would tell you this, the guy up there explained the whole thing to us. And we're all, VICAP coordinators. And we're all sitting there looking at each other and looking at it. He spent 10 minutes on it. And he said, any questions? I raised my hand. I said, can you say that all again as if to a child? Because it was like, this is convoluted and doesn't, make any sense. But I will show you what it is. There are 3 numbers that go into making what a premium is. And I don't need to go into details because I didn't even fully understand it all, but there are 3 numbers that go into the premium. The rule says that the first number cannot be raised any more than 6%. Doesn't say anything about what the other 2 numbers can do. So that 6% cap on increase of premiums really means nothing. Okay, so what does this mean? We won't know everything, all of the plans until October 1st, but we have data on 2 of the plans. One of the plans, our zero premium plan, is staying zero premium for next year. The $5.40 plan, that was, what was that? WellCare Values? What was that?
Oh,
SilverScript.
yeah.
SilverScript. It's jumping to $28.20. That's a little more than 6% increase. So that was a yeah. So just so you guys are educated, well aware of that 6% increase didn't mean what everybody perceived it meant. So one of the other things that we saw on our slide here on it is that we've seen on our two beneficiary notices that we've got to look at is the cost of drugs in tiers have changed, and it looks like tier 1 and tier 2 drugs on the 2 plans we're looking at, how much it costs for a tier 1 generic blah 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 is increasing by a couple of dollars, and how much the tier 2. It looked like on one of them, tier 3 didn't really move any. Tier 4 was a little squishy about what was going on with the tier 4. But again, we're going to see real data on this on October 1st. Right now, we're working with the limited amount of data that we've seen. So when we put all these rules together, we have to start with a couple of base things of knowledge. The federal government can set in rules to say, here's what we want to do to help with prescription cost drug pricings, what it costs for drugs. Insurance companies have a different motivation. And so they can turn and twist and figure out ways around those rules to get to wherever they want. In the end, what I perceive happening, given these different things, especially the $2,000 cap, is we're going to have people, especially people on high tier drugs, that the rules are really going to benefit. And we're going to have people, maybe the people on a couple of maintenance drugs, that it may not affect too much because we see that zero premium plan stayed zero premium, and maybe the cost of their drug goes up $2 a month or something. So that's what I'm perceiving. But there may be people in the middle of all that are the ones that are going to get a bad deal out of this. So in the end, we always have to remember this. People have a plan this year, and it's working for them and doing what it's doing this year. When we get to open enrollment, what their plan is happening and what happens and the prices for this year mean nothing. We are going to be able to compare the 20 or so different plans against each other, the 2025 plans, and figure out what's the best option out of those options. And that's what we do. So we're going to run into a few people who are going to, their best option in 2025 was not as good as what they were holding in 2024. And we'll just have to set the expectation line is, we're not trying to find you a better plan than what you have. We're trying to find you what's the best option for next year. And we're going to have people that this is really going to help a lot. A couple of people, counselors have already pointed out to me, even Brooke, who as new as she is, figured this out already on her own, which was, you guys watch a couple of numbers, during open enrollment, how many people you're helping, which is a number we can control. And then we have how much money have we saved people? And last year, $1.8 million and some change. The way these rules are set up this year, that's probably, we're not going to hit that kind of number again. Because of the $2,000 cap, on all the plans. We're not going to have people who are going to be on this current plan. They're spending $30,000 and we got them down to $10,000. The differential on those people are going to be much, much smaller. But again, that's a number we have always said we have no control over. It's just a nice shiny number that we go, look what we did. We are still going to have a couple of people whose drug on the plan, next year's version of their plan, is no longer on the formulary. So that $2,000 cap means nothing. And they could have a $25,000 price. And then we put them on a plan that's covered and it's going to drop down to a $2,000 cap. Yeah, we'll have a few of those. That'll happen. So, but you know, with the way the rules are set up here, you know, again, and we're not really concerned about us. We're concerned about them. But we're not going to see the big shiny number the same way. But we're going to have some people who, especially on high tier drugs, this is going to be a major life change for them. And that's going to be great. So we're really not going to see clients spending $10,000 on their drugs. So, okay. There we go. Excited about that. So, questions at this point? Wow, I've either done a really great job explaining things or confused you all. It's one or the other. I do want to take a 5-minute break, so let's get a drink of water, go to the restroom if they need to, and then we're going to come back and we're just going to do through some refresher of things that are pertinent during open enrollment, and then go from there. So let's just take a quick break. Okie dokie. We're coming back here in a moment. Another minute. Everybody back in here. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Randy,
Yeah, Peggy.
can I talk to you after this is done about some questions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Randy, this is Sharon.
Hey, Sharon.
I'm still settling my father's estate, so every time I get a phone call, I have to jump up and answer it. I'm sorry. So Larry's filling me in.
That's good. Larry will keep good notes.
Okay. Are you taping this?
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So I had already listened to one that you had with from earlier in the week, or
Yeah.
so I knew most of that, but I didn't know about those three little boxes and the price.
Yeah, I didn't go in details with them. And Steve, I know you. Hopefully, you're back there, can hear me. I got your email from a day or so ago, and I've just been swamped and haven't got to process through it yet. So I'm not ignoring you, but I am ignoring you. I just haven't got back to you yet on that. So he's probably not even at his desk. You know, I didn't hear that. So okay, well, let's get back to a couple of things here. And some of these I have slides for, but I don't necessarily need slides for you guys with this. One of the first things when we go into open enrollment and we're putting drug lists in, and again, let me just say the plan finder, as far as we know, will there's no major changes in the plan finder and how it does things for prescription drugs. As I said, really going to add in. The only thing is where I add in that wizard. There was one neat little button though that was new, Lenore. They showed us where if you were in the plan details and you realized you had a drug, maybe incorrectly, or you need to add a drug that they mentioned there. They've added a button right there where you're looking in the plan details at the drug section where you can click and it'll roll you right back to you don't have to go up and back through to get back to put new drugs
Add
in.
it right there, yeah.
Yeah, you can just click there and it'll let you add the drug in. So that was a neat little, okay, that'll work. That helps. So first thing is, as we're entering drugs in, we have to remember that, that you got basically, if you think of three boxes, you got, let's say, over-the-counter medications, which you don't put in for the plan because the drug insurance is not going to cover it, Part D insurance. Even if you have a prescription for it, but you could turn around and pick it right up off the shelf, then you're not going to put that over-the-counter medication in the plan finder. It's just going to skew your results. And on the other side of it is there are some drugs that are covered under Medicare Part B as in boy. Some cancer drugs still might be covered under B as in boy. But the big two are you think about is the things that go through durable medical supply. So as an example, if you have insulin and you have a flex pen and that's how you use it to inject your insulin, and you're going to throw that flex pen away when it's done, that's Part D as in drug because that's not going to be a durable medical supply. But if you have insulin going through a pump, then that insulin is now covered under Part B and shouldn't be put on the drug list. In fact, it ends up probably being much cheaper over the course of the year because even though it's maxed out at $35 a month, if you've got, let's say, a G plan for your supplement, you're going to max out at some point your deductible for the year. So, have that. Other ones would be like, say, albuterol or so. If you've got a rescue inhaler that you're going to throw away at the end of the year or when you're done with it, that's Part D as in drug. But if you have a nebulizer, a machine that vaporizes that, so you breathe that in, you're putting the albuterol in there, that albuterol is covered under Part B, even though you're picking all these drugs up at your pharmacist. It's just covered under B unless we don't put it in there. Anything else about about B and D there? Think of more. Those are the majors.
Just check if you've got a weird drug that you're not familiar with. That's probably expensive. Things that like specialty pharmacy drugs are going to come up on the plan finder, but you can't get them at CVS, and the cost is not going to be right. So sometimes make sure you ask about those drugs, ask the client about those, where they get them.
Where they get them from. Because if they have a specialty drug, a drug that they have put together for them, they know where they're getting it from.
It's a compounded drug, and they can only get it through a specialty pharmacy. It will still come up on the plan finder, probably. It always has, but you can't just buy it anywhere. And that price on the plan finder is not going to be correct. You just don't put it in the.
Yeah, it won't be correct at CVS.
Yeah, and it's not going to, we don't know what the price is. They're going to know what it is, but we can't find it out.
So are you saying that basically if somebody has a formulary that they're used to using or that they are going to be coming, just don't put it in and just say continue to pay out of pocket for it?
Well, yeah, they're going to know what it is. They usually get some discounts, and if
they're getting it through some program or manufacturer discount or so like that, you don't want to be putting that in.
Yeah, because it's not going to come up right. And it will skew. Yeah, because it's a compounded medication, and a regular pharmacy is not going to be able to provide that medication. And it will come up on the plan finder, but it's going to give you the wrong information.
Yeah. The speaking, I guess, other small things, generics versus the brand name drugs, and it gives you those options as you're entering things in. Just make sure you're putting in what the client is doing. And again, a lot of times, I'm not saying a lot of times, there are certain times you will run into where the brand name is cheaper than the generic. For certain rules and ways of things working out. And sometimes on insulin will sometimes show up like that too. I always stress this: capsules versus tablets. Everybody shakes their head like, yep, we know that. It's like, make sure that if you have options between capsules and tablets, you've got the right one in, because the pricing can be wildly different. Let's talk about pharmacies for a second. You guys all know how to get pharmacies in. There are two different ones we want to point out, though, is that if someone is in a facility, in a nursing home or something like that, though they may be getting their drugs, the nursing home is getting it from some warehouse in Harrisonburg or Richmond or someplace else. And so we need to enter that in correctly. Now, we are finishing up building a document that has all of our local nursing homes and what pharmacy they use and what's the zip code of that pharmacy. Because that's how you do it. When you're under the pharmacies, you just change the zip code and it will take you to there. And then you can even start typing in the first few letters of the name of that pharmacy, and that'll come up to the top. So if it's Omnicare in Richmond, which is a common one, you'll be able to type in the zip code off that sheet, pull up Omnicare, and select that as your pharmacy. Yeah, George.
Is it possible that somebody in a nursing home would get only some drugs through this warehouse and some would go to the local pharmacy? And how would that work? Because that's essentially choosing two different pharmacies.
That's correct. But that is a real rare thing. There are facilities that they don't use a warehouse and their residents get them from a local, and that will be marked on the sheet. I looked at the sheet that we're getting put together, and I've seen a couple of facilities like that, like, well, we don't use a warehouse. Our individual people get it from whatever pharmacy they want. It's a rare occasion. I'm not sure I've ever ran into that they do both, because usually with the nursing home or whatever, it's much easier for them to go, you're going to do it one way or you're going to do it the other way. You're really going to confuse us if you're doing it both at the same time. So,
Randy, I remember last year making up my cheat sheet that had all of these kind of things, the capsule tower, all that kind of thing. And one of the things that came up several times was where the brand was actually cheaper than the generic. Do you know of any major changes? In other words, is my cheat sheet from last year likely to work this year, or are there new glitches that you've come across where, like I'm saying, where like the brand is cheaper than the
right. Well, one, we know that insulin sometimes will show up like that. We kind of have to watch with the rescue inhalers. If you're putting it in under Provental or the generic of Provental, you might want to check both to see, go back and forth between the two.
You might just want to check Good RX.
Yeah, or check. Oh, I'll get to that. We're not quite there, but the other thing is, let me go back. I wasn't going into it, but I'll tell you. Here's how it was explained to me by a head pharmacist at UVA. He said, if there's a generic for the drug, but there's only one producer for the generic, then usually the brand name is going to be cheaper. But once there's a second producer of the generic, then that's when the switch happens.
Mm-hmm.
So again, am I aware of which drugs now? Because there was one a couple years ago, and I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, that fit in that category of only one.
Symbicort's the one.
Symbicort, that was it, Symbicort. But once, and I don't know if it's happened, but once you get a second producer of Symbicort generic, then the pricing will change.
Okay.
But I am unaware of specific drugs at the moment.
That's fine.
But if we run into them during open enrollment, we can throw out alerts going, hey, we ran in and found this one. Obviously, let me stay we were on the putting in the pharmacy for the nursing homes and facilities. One of the other ones that might be coming up more commonly is people picking up their drugs from the online Amazon pharmacy. And Dawn started it, and Lenore did some editing things. So a very good document that you will have up in there to go, how do you enter it? You can get it in there as a pharmacy, and it's, and so we've got, I don't think I have that document. I think I gave that to Lenore to take a second look at.
There's also instructions for the clients and how to actually get the prescription.
How to use the Amazon pharmacy.
Yeah.
So there's instructions. Lenore and I, a couple of days ago, went through what are all the documents that need to be in your SharePoint document things, what needs to be updated, what are new ones that need to be in there. And so we'll be working on that over the next week or so to get all the documents in there. One of those new documents will be the how do you use the Amazon pharmacy.
Amazon has 2 zip codes.
Yeah.
You can use. You've got them both.
Yeah. I'll let you and Lenore do that. She's fixing the document up. The document, all I was really changing is that I wanted to put the instructions for the counselor at the top of the document, and then the instructions for the client, the beneficiary, down, so it's quicker for you guys as counselor to go, oh yeah, that's how I do to put it in.
It's 78744.
Oh, wait, Lenore needs a pen. She's writing it down.
78744 and 85034.
And Dawn, do you know if there's
Thanks,
any difference in the pricing's the same no matter what zip code you put it in?
I haven't really compared them on the same med. What I have found with Amazon is that, of course, with Amazon, you can order right there, either using the plan or not using the plan. So you get the option. And for certain drugs, it's the same price. But for things like estradiol, that cream,
Oh yeah, that thing. Yeah,
Typically is much less expensive with Amazon than almost
good,
any.
because that's been a drug that has been too more expensive than it should be, shall we say?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's typically on Amazon, I think it's about $14 or $18 a tube.
Wow.
Yeah, that cream, that tube. Yeah.
Okay, so these documents are going to start appearing on SharePoint, and somehow we'll know that they're the new guys to look at.
Well, yeah. Well, by the time that we get to October 15th, we will have stripped out any of the old ones and put in all of the new ones. So, and here, and I know everybody does this, but here's my advice to not do this. People grab those and then put them on their desktop, and then we update them, and you don't have the updated one. And so sometimes it's just easier just to go into the SharePoint and open the document from there or so, because I mean, we do update the things when we notice something needs updated. It's just, and so you may have on your desktop a version three versions back. So yeah, Steve.
Just a quick question for Don or anybody. In using Amazon, is this a situation where we're pricing it as though it's off insurance like we would, for example, with GoodRx? Or is this a situation where we're entering Amazon as one of the pharmacies within the plan finder?
Well,
Okay.
if you go to the Amazon pharmacy website, you'll see for any drug, you'll see a price with insurance and a price without insurance, and you'll be able to select whichever is cheaper. With the plan finder, I think you're tied into that specific plan and looking at Amazon's prices under that particular plan.
You
Right.
can put it on the plan finder.
Right.
Yeah.
You can put on the plan finder to get the insurance price of it.
Right.
But if you wanted to go just like
price on the plan finder.
Yeah. But if you wanted to go and look at it like you would GoodRx, you would have to open up the Amazon pharmacy separately. Right. That's what we're saying.
And have you found any significant difference?
Oh yeah, at times there is. Yeah. And I mean, I use it all the time now because their mail order delivery service is so much better than anybody else's.
Okay.
Mhm.
You're actually going to get it, and you're going to get it fast when you order it.
Because it's Amazon.
Yeah.
When you say with insurance, do you mean with whoever your Medicare insurance is, or is this some other?
No, with Part D, you can plug in the ID number of your plan on the Amazon site.
Okay.
And that's in the instructions for the beneficiary of how you set up basically your account on the Amazon pharmacy.
Okay.
So,
And then is it correct that if you go through GoodRx or Amazon or any of these others and you're off insurance, then it doesn't count towards your 2000 max?
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. Exactly. And that's always been that way, but that's very good pointing that out, Jan. It's like, you don't moving towards the $2,000 max if you're not using the insurance. So,
right.
Okay.
But if you weren't going to come in, if you're going to come in for the year under 2,000, then you should be doing that, right? Yeah.
If you're getting a better price, yeah. So, which then brings up the back to the things. Remember, if you got things like what we said before, you got things like GoodRx, you've got Needy Meds for discount programs or different programs that might help somebody pay for a drug cheaper. And now, you got the Amazon pharmacy is a good one. There's other ones out there also. But those are always good to look at drugs. And you guys have been doing it long enough. You recognize when you got a problem child drug. It's like, this is, let's see if we can find something better on that, So, and then obviously, if you do, and you're going to say, hey, we're going to get the estrol from Amazon Pharmacy, take it off of your drug list on the plan finder so it doesn't skew the results of what's the best plan.
Well, wait a minute, I'm confused then. I thought you were saying that when we go to Amazon, it's going to look to see, it's going to give me a price based on my silver script or something.
Right. Let me reiterate. If we were using the non-insurance price on Amazon, like we would with GoodRx,
right, okay,
like that's why I was like, because I was in that zone of we're doing the off insurance system, and if we find that we're going to not get that drug on our insurance, then we take it off the plan finder. which you guys all know. I'm not telling you something you don't know. We're just getting our heads back in the game on this. So, I guess a couple of reminders is, late enrollment penalties. If people didn't have a Part D when they were supposed to have a Part D, they didn't have creditable coverage, they have a late enrollment penalty for that. Many people who are already on a late enrollment penalty know that that's going on. You will get a few clients that aren't. But my first thing I want to point out is that that late enrollment penalty will not show up in the plan finder details. That you have to put that on, in a, that we had a wild amount of people show up, especially in person last year, who were getting a Plan D for the first time and had never, and so they were going to have a late enrollment period. And literally within a week, we had 3 people who had been on Medicare since Part D had started, and now we're looking at getting a Plan D. And so they had the maximum out of pocket thing. Now, this would be, if you were going in person, this would be one of your tabs. There are several out here, but I can put this in the documents where you guys got an online calculator for late enrollment penalty, and you put in the number of months that they were out, and it give you how much late enrollment penalty is. This one's calculating for 2024. It will slightly change for 2025, but you put in the number of months, and you would get late enrollment. That saves you from manually calculating that in your head. Now, it's a nice little tool to have. I will point out, when the person is telling you, oh yeah, hey, going to have to get a late enrollment penalty, or there's going to be a late enrollment penalty, the one X factor there is that they're telling you how long they have not been in, which may or may not be correct. And so when we type in 36 months, just go, well, this is the estimate for 36, if it is 36 months. When they go to assess you the late enrollment penalty, they're going to figure out exactly, well, maybe it was 35 months or 38 months or something. Kind of give the caveat of this is a ballpark figure we're looking at here based on that we think it's 36 months. So,
Randy, I've always been confused about this. Do you include the rest of the months of this year because you're starting on January 1st, or do you
yes.
count? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, it's until you have a Part D.
Until you have a Part D. Okay.
Lenore, I'm correct on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so late enrollment penalties, as I said, won't show up the same way as if they have IRMA. It won't show up on there, and so we have the IRMA chart for that. Let me get back to my slides. And I jumped a whole bunch of slides that were just didn't need to have there for a moment. Yeah. Okay, LIS, and this changed last year, but we just want to refresh us on this. There is no longer partial LIS. There's only full LIS. So that changed at the beginning of 2024. So anybody who would have qualified for LIS at any level, any partial level, is now on full LIS. When you pull them up in the plan finder and you log in as them, it'll come up saying whether or not they have LIS according to what the Medicare site understands at that moment. A lot of times that's correct. But sometimes you will run into a client that says they have LIS, but the plan finder doesn't say it. You can always call in the SHIP hotline, get a hold of Medicare, and see if they've got any better updated information. Because when somebody says that they have LIS, but the plan finder isn't saying they have LIS, there's all kinds of possible options at that moment. And one of them is that they don't have LIS and that they are they don't for some reason or the other, they've lost the LIS. And remember that they send out a letter in September to most of the LIS people saying, hey, we just want to make sure you're still going to be on LIS, if you still qualify for it. Send us back this form with this information on it so that, we know you still qualify for LIS. And inevitably, we will have a couple of people walk in November going, I lost LIS and I don't know why. Well, did you send the form back in? What form? I didn't see a form. And so then we're back to what do we do with them at that moment? And that is our process has been pretty refined over the years. We can do an LIS application with them either there or set up a time to do an LIS application or send them off to do it if they feel like they can do it themselves. We'll look for, yeah.
I just aside, are we urging the new counselors and short-term counselors to create user accounts for everybody they contact?
Yeah. If we don't have a user account, they're sitting down with one, that we're encourage them to set up a user account because it gives us so much more information and mostly accurate information than what the client maybe have available for us. So, yeah,
thanks.
Try to set that. Try to get them to set those up. The newbies and the returners, they got training next week, which that process will be part of it. That's in their next one.
And it's finally nice that they have the LIS application right on the main page of Medicare.
Of Medicare?
Yep. You scroll down, it says get help with prescription drug costs. Green button, you click it, takes you right to the
Social Security site. Yeah.
LIS form right there.
Yeah, that is one of the new things. Yeah, I forgot about that. So let's come back to what do we do with the person who are applying for LIS. They don't have LIS. Just a reminder what we do. We're going to look up plans as if they don't have LIS, because at the moment they don't. And we're going to pick the best plan that for not having LIS, and we're going to sign them up or make sure they're on that plan to start January 1. Now, if they get the letter back and we tell them you're going to get a letter back from Social Security, 30 days, 40 days, telling whether you have it or not. And at that point, let us know. Because if you then get it, because you're on LIS, outside of open enrollment, we can go back and sign you up for the right plan for now that you have LIS. We do that, that's a better safe than sorry, because if we try to sign them up for a plan thinking that they're going to have LIS and then they get the letter back and say they don't, then they've definitely got the wrong plan. So change in the rules for people who are on Medicaid and people who are on LIS, we're going back to they can change every month. So it was that way for years. They switch it to they could change every quarter for the first 3 quarters of the year. But now in 2025, we're going back to they can change it every month, which I mean may come in handy, but I really don't see many people that come in January, we change their plan, and they come back in February and we change their plan again. And there'd be a particular set of circumstances of that, to happen. But back to what we're saying, we are applying for LIS, or we're not sure they have LIS. We sign them up for a plan based that they don't have LIS. Then when they find out that they have LIS, we can change the plan. So nothing new there. We've done that for years that way, but I guess reminder of those things.
A related question, Randy.
Yep.
You just said if they're on Medicaid and LIS.
Or LIS.
Thank you.
Now, granted, I say that if you're on Medicaid, 99.9% of the time you're on LIS. It has to be actually a computer glitch that happened that you didn't on it. but you could be on LIS and not on Medicaid. So
Thank
that's
you.
what I said. One or the other. Yeah. Okay. Back to slides. So those are all sort of the little out there little individual things of just want to hit refresh our memory on those things. Now I want to come. Yes.
Just a quick question. All of what you said is only if they come in and they say they're on LIS or Medicaid and the plan finder doesn't say that.
Right.
If they come in and say they're on it and plan finder is consistent, then obviously we choose based on that assumption.
Absolutely. Right? And the plan finder will calculate as if they have LIS. So that's all there. And you may run into the other person who is like, they come in, they're not on LIS, they have no idea what LIS is, no one's ever talked to them about LIS, but their income is well and assets seem to be well inside of the limits of LIS. So we're going to do an application for LIS. We would treat them the way that I talked about. So,
Randy, I have a question about eligibility. Single person lives with their child and the child claims them as a dependent. Do we use the same numbers or are there different numbers?
From my understanding, that person would be a single person.
Okay. Thank you.
From my understanding. So, okay, now back to PowerPoint. Let's come back and talk a little bit we're going to come in and spend some time on Medicare Advantage plans. Refresher, obviously a Medicare Advantage plan is a managed healthcare plan or a particular insurance company. There is a wild difference in quality and what's offered depending on your zip code, your region, your state, area of the country. So there are places in the United States that have really, really great Medicare Advantage plans that work really well. And then there are places in the country that maybe don't have as good as Medicare Advantage plans and they don't work as well. And we're in that second category with that. Now, obviously, over the long years we've been doing this, Medicare Advantage plans have gotten better. I'm not saying they're not good, but they got better. But there is a proliferation of the amount of them, the numbers of them. Our problems that we see locally with Medicare Advantage plans, networks, though this has improved, but networks are always a problem, especially if you're on an HMO as opposed to a PPO of Advantage plan. The network could be really restrictive in your health care because you can't go see doctors, therapists, have surgeries at places. We have all the plans usually offer some sort of dental and vision. However, it's difficult in our area to find a dentist or an optometrist that will take that plan. So you may be signing up for a Medicare Advantage plan because you want dental. Well, you have dental insurance, you just can't use the dental insurance. And so that becomes a problem. The biggest problem nowadays is pre-authorization because the insurance company gets to decide about your health care. And we see a pretty high percentage of denials of services from these insurance companies. And it usually has to do with the big ticket items of you need a CAT scan, or you need therapy for this, or your doctor wants to do this procedure and stuff. And getting a lot of denials and having to fight the insurance company to get your health care. Especially true with skilled nursing. If you go to skilled nursing after a long hospital stay to recoup, I swear it seems like 100% of the people have problems with that. I've yet to have anybody said they had no problems with that situation. So when you get to things like cancer or dialysis, the plans pay 80%, and then you're responsible for 20%. So basically, you're back on original Medicare with no supplement when it comes to your cancer treatment or dialysis. And then they still could be restrictive about where you go get your dialysis or so. Skilled nursing, I mentioned, got ahead of myself with that. And then if you're traveling or need to have had a client whose doctors were recommending that they get their surgery done in Northern Virginia, but that hospital or doctors aren't covered under their plan, so he couldn't do that. Or if you're traveling and want to get something besides emergency healthcare, you want to see a provider or so in a different state, that's a problem. So especially people who live half the year in one place and half the year in another, they really have problems with their Medicare Advantage plans. Now, I say all that, and I want to back up a second and caveat it a little bit. When I talk about the Advantage plans in our area and the problems in our area with these, I'm talking about the plans that are there for an individual, any individual to go and get off of in the open market. There are Medicare Advantage plans that are provided by maybe a big company that you might have worked for that's part of your retirement package. And so you have your Medicare package thing that they give you in retirement is a Medicare Advantage plan. Well, those plans tend not to be regional plans. They're bigger plans, and so they may function and be of a quality that's more like a plan in California or Phoenix or New York or so, and they work fine because they're not a Central Virginia plan. They are a national type plan. So when people have those, because I go out and talk, sometimes I run into people who have something like that and they get panicky and they're like, no, your plan may be perfectly fine. Because frankly, let's just say if we were counselors in South Florida, big part of our counseling would be talking about what's the best Medicare Advantage plan for you, because there's some really good options. But we're not there. We're here. And so we have to deal with the Medicare Advantage plans that we have here. So Lenore has made a walkthrough, and I'm going to fire quick slides here for it just to give you it's just basically a copy of the piece of paper that she made. But then Lenore's going to actually do a demonstration of this. So, we have like the first part of it here. If you're starting with the username and password, or so you're going in and looking at the plan C's, the Advantage, not the drug plans. You're going to enter the pharmacies and the drugs the same way. Then you're going to be focusing on things about the different plans, especially whether they're an HMO, a PPO, or an HMO POS, drug costs like normal, deductibles, mainly healthcare deductibles, out-of-pocket maximums for healthcare, and whether the plan's regional plan or not. And again, I'm just flying through this. You get the document. Then it goes through and talks about the difference between the HMO, PPOs, and POSs. You do the drug costs, look at the deductibles and out-of-pockets for the drugs. You kind of figure out what the top two plans are for given those drug things. But then you're going to start to look at, and she'll do this, really about the medical part of the deductible, if it has one, and the out-of-pocket maximums with that. And then you're going to look at the plan details of it, which parts of it will look very familiar to you, and other parts. But at the top of the plan details, it lets you go to the plan website itself for looking at those plans. Each one of those insurance companies will look a little different, but they have a lot of similarities. But you're really going to go looking for whether their doctors are in network. And so, and then she'll go through how you go about looking at the doctors here, but it just gives you the steps on that. And then So I'm going to get off of share screen and I'm going to give it to Lenore to share screen.
So,
Okay.
so this is pretty simple. Everybody can see?
Yep.
Okay, so basically Medicare.gov. And we're getting this sheet out. There's going to be this year, it's going to be a little bit different because we're going to have a lot of sheets at the desk that for people that they're laminated, that people can, you'll have it in your doc file, but a lot of people who are in person, so they can have it for reference. This is obviously asking what if anybody's on a savings program, and we're going to look at drugs. So a lot of the people who are fairly new, not the brand new people, but people who are fairly new, are going to be doing Medicare Advantages this year.
Oh yeah. So returning counselors,
Yes.
not newbies, but
Not
returning
newbies,
counselors
yeah.
have all been trained on Medicare Advantage plans. And then we were talking to each one individually to go, are you comfortable if you had a Medicare Advantage person show up at your desk or, to counsel? And so we know which ones are those, and those are getting labeled as M3s. And so where in the past, the Medicare Advantage people tended to show up with M4s, year-round counselors, and way disproportionately. So to correct that this year, we've trained the M2s and M3s to handle Medicare Advantage plans to spread those clients out, so that you will get much more Part D, simpler Part D ones. So
Okay, so it's also if anybody's helping, all those people should be going through exactly the same process. And
they'll
they
walk
should know
step
this
by step
process.
through the walkthrough. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I put in a couple of medications and brought up the Medicare Advantage plans. So the structure is to look at the Advantage plans and look at you're looking at what type of plan it is, whether it's an HMO or PPO. Looking at the drug costs, obviously, depending on what medication. Also in the Medicare Advantage plans, just like the Part D plans, there is that $2,000 max for the drugs. And then you're going to be looking at the out-of-pocket net maximum. That's really important. You're going to look at the deductibles.
Sorry, Lenore, jump in
Okay.
here. Those are the health insurance deductible and out-of-pocket maximums.
Right. Because obviously the pharmacy costs are going to be, that drug deductible is going to be included in that drug costs. You want to keep a low premium. We don't know if these new Advantage plans are going to have premiums coming up next year. We also don't know what those drug costs are going to look like.
But that process should mirror what we see in the Part Ds.
Right.
Which we still don't know.
And I have heard from just one Medicare Advantage client who called, was very worried because his out-of-pocket maximum went through the roof. And he was very concerned and wanted to come in and talk about that. So this is someplace that the new Medicare Advantage plans might be changing quite a bit. So those are the things that you're going to look at right away to indicate that this might not be the best plan for someone. Right away, if they want an HMO or PPO, that's going to take that off the table. Obviously, the first few are going to be the cheapest ones because they're probably the HMOs are going to be the cheapest ones. This Humana Choice is the PPO is this was one of our big, out of the two major plans this year, this was one of the big ones. It was pretty much an either or. This one does have an annual health deductible, but the out-of-pocket maximum was extremely low. So this one was kind of an either or choice between this plan, which had a bit higher deductible, out-of-pocket maximum, I'm sorry, and no deductible. So and the drug costs seem to be pretty much, pretty close to even. So it was kind of a difficult decision, and it probably came down to how much somebody used the plan, or if, do you have an upcoming big hospitalization that you expected to have, knee replacement, something coming up that you expected to use a lot of health care in the next year, then certainly that out-of-pocket maximum, low out-of-pocket maximum, and spending the $750 is a better deal than going with no deductible and the $5,400 out-of-pocket maximum.
Lenore, do you know if they're going to be changing the basic design of this first sheets? Because it seems as though the 2000 max doesn't include premium. So you really have to kind of separately, if I understand it correctly, most of the information here combines the drug and the premium cost. But of course, the 2000 max doesn't apply to the premium. And so you, in a sense, want to, have a slightly different comparison. And I mean, I guess you could figure it out, but
yeah, it's not going to show. Yeah, it doesn't show you. It'll tell you the drug deductible, but and the retail pharmacy cost of the drugs and the drug deductible. So it kind of gives you the idea of the total cost of the medications and the
right. But if it's ordered by the cheapest of the total drug and premium, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the choice that would be best for the client when you take into account the 2000 cap for just the drug portion.
Well, okay.
There might be some plan that doesn't.
Yeah. So George, let me back up here. First, we're looking at, this is the layout for Advantage plans. So this is specifically Advantage plans, not drug plans.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So, but then in the end, when we're talking about prescription plans, we're still going down, we're finding a final number. Because in the end, you want to know how much is it going to cost me to pick up my prescriptions, and how much is it going to cost me to pay my premiums for the year, and what's the total of that? Because that's the best price. That's the best you're going to do. So if you have a higher premium and your drug costs are lower, meaning maybe you won't even get to the $2,000, whatever all that is added together, that's going to come out to a number. And it's going to say, okay, that's $2,200. But oh wait, I have this one that's different, works out different, and its total price is $2,300. So it's the adding of the two things together that's important, in the end. Now, being able to show, and again, when we get to the plan details, we can show how much of that is premium and how much of that is drug costs. You'll be able to see that in the plan details. But in the end, the important number is the one that is, how much are those two numbers added together going to be?
Right, because up here, it's going to tell you the health and drug premiums.
Right. Yeah. So this comes up differently because, in a sense, is there's more information And so it's showing you more information than it would on a drug plan. So George, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, I think it's the same question whether it's Advantage or just Part D plans, which is as long as they're ordering the plans based on the total amount of drug and premium costs. So we're used to kind of looking at the cheapest one and then going down the list. That doesn't really tell us whether that would be the cheapest when you take into account the fact that there's a cap that only applies to a portion of that cost. So that, you know, in a case where, say, a plan has a very high premium, but a low, I mean, it seems to me it isn't going to work. You're kind of comparing apples and oranges, but, you know, I agree that you can actually dig into it and get the separate amounts and do the calculation yourself, but we can't rely on the finder to just, you know, lay out in a very convenient way the order of the plans based on that number, because that number isn't necessarily the right number.
Well, it already tells you there's no
Yeah, hang on.
premium.
So Lenore, go up to the top, switch the button over to the Part D plans. Up in the upper right. Upper right. View 20 available drug plans.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So in the end, if you are, it's going to, the $2,000 cap is going to be represented in here, right? It will stop adding numbers when you get to $2,000. Okay. So what you want to know is, given my drugs, and let's say they capped out at $2,000, and then adding in what the premium is every month, so 12 of those, we're getting to the total estimated cost of drugs and premium. So that should be the number that's going to tell you what the best plan is, because it is calculating the cap. Does that make sense, George?
Yeah, let me think about it further. I'm sorry to trouble you or take time.
No. Yeah, no, because if all you were looking at was
the medical in there.
What you said, yeah, that's why I came over to just the Part Ds for now, because we're like, in a Part D, you're just looking for that retail pharmacy estimated total drug plus premium. Because if you sorted it by just how much you're going to pay on the drugs, then that's just going to skew that your total price for the year. And you can do that. There's a drop-down menu allows you to do that, but we don't pull that down because that number ends up being irrelevant. So now, Lenore, if you want to go back to change back to your Medicare Advantage plans. Oh yeah, there you go. Will that do that? Hey, that'll do that from there too.
Yeah, but it doesn't do it the other way.
Okay. When we're looking at this, it's giving us a lot more data. And so what we're concerned about looking at when you're looking at Advantage plan is the drug cost is a factor. But really the big ones are going to be that $5,900 maximum out of pocket for health care. And the $0 deductible for health care. Those are big numbers we're looking at, because that's going to mean in the end, what's their maximum exposure for the year when it comes to health care. Because when we're looking at Advantage plans, the drug cost is, you don't want it to be wildly out of place. But you may be looking at the third highest drug cost plan because it's the best health care plan.
Right. But
that makes sense?
Yeah. And this does tell you what the premium is for your drugs. It's $0.
Right. Well, that's the premium for both the health and the drugs.
Yeah. So there is a zero drug premium and your drugs are $105 for the rest of the year. Let me go to one that does have a premium. Maybe that'll make sense. Well, there aren't too many that do.
Yeah. Go to page 3.
Yeah, I've been going there.
There are ones with premiums, aren't there?
Yeah. I'm sorry, my computer is so slow. 105. Okay, so the health and drug monthly premium is $105. So look, if you look at the plan details,
It'll break that down.
right, the health premium is $46.10 and the drug premium is $56.90 per month.
50, yeah. And again, a plan like this would probably be right out anyhow when we're comparing
Right.
Advantage plans to Advantage plans.
But so it doesn't show you all on one line, but you can see exactly what the drug monthly premium is and the cost of the drugs. So the yearly cost of the drugs plus the drug premium.
Look, Lenore, last year, I remember you did that great chart that basically summarized, and I remember using it because I had little stars by any of the ones that I would ever even look at. And like, there were things like, I know there was one that, you know, if somebody's on dialysis, consider this, and it was,
right.
With all you're doing as well, with all this, all the updating, do you know whether there will be something like that forthcoming, or is that too much to ask?
We have talked about that we're going to produce a document like that, but because of some, you know, gets in what's important and what's not, we're going to change the format a little bit.
What helped me was that I knew that there were like 4 to look at.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not going to do
down.
like every single company anymore. We're going to do more like that type of a document.
Yeah, the chart you were looking at where you had the list of the companies and the pluses and minuses for those companies.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So,
anything
Lenore,
like that would be helpful.
we've knocked you way out of your route. So let's go back and get you back on track here.
Okay. Forgot where I was.
Yeah. So I guess we're just starting back with page 1 plans. So, which we need to get back to page 1 plans. I think we're on page 2.
Okay. Okay, so basically, yeah, we're just picking a plan. And, you know, going over the plan with a client. I forgot where we were.
Okay.
Oh, and looking at the website, plan website to check to see if their doctors are in network. Luckily, Humana is an easy one.
Easier, shall we say.
Yeah, fairly easy. And then you pick whatever plan. So you pick this plan. This was the plan we wanted to look at. And then we try to find a doctor. And just put in whatever doctor you want.
Last name's a good place to start.
Yeah. Okay. There's a Jones, several Joneses within 15 miles, and you can change the miles and see if that's one of the doctors. And they have social workers and psychiatrists. And, you know, so they have several of those doctors. And if they're not in the people that they're looking for, you can always go up to within 100 miles.
Now, when you select one of those, let's select one.
You can add it to the list.
Okay.
Okay. And you can go and add another doctor. Because when you try to find a dentist, that's different. So if you're in a PPO, if you want a dentist, they'll definitely be at a network.
Okay. And then sometimes the sites will tell you right here that your doctor is in network.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll go, oh, we're going to add the doctor and we'll let you know in a second whether they're in network.
Okay. So, and then you can add all the drugs there and that will give you another update
Yeah.
on the medication.
Yeah, if you needed to do that, but the Plan Finder is going to do good. But you could also add facilities like the hospital and so.
Right.
So at that point, if you click on, is it under View Plan Summaries? That will show you if the doctors are in network.
Gives you more.
Oh yeah, not here.
So
Each
actually,
one,
another thing that we did find out about
yes.
that on the main, no, it just said that they were, when you were looking at if the name is there, they're supposed to be in network. But
Yeah.
what we did find out from the original page, when you're they're supposed to give more information about what is actually available.
Yeah, click the blue box, it'll open it up.
Right. So when you're looking at that's drugs, but like hearing exams, it says limits apply. It's supposed to give actually numbers of what the limits are for things, more information about what they cover for hearing and dental and vision. What is the limits? Because it's not actually giving you any information at all. It's just that they have it, but what they have is they don't give you that information.
Yeah, so they're supposed to be adding that.
And then you enroll just the way, you always enroll. But not everybody can afford a gap policy. So.
Well, and here's what you're going to have come in. You're going to have a client who is, one client that's going to come in, they're on an Advantage plan, they're looking to see what's their best Advantage plan for next year. Now, statistics from last year may not say anything about what's going to happen this open enrollment, but statistics from last year was 20% of those clients changed plans, 80% stayed on the same plan they were on, which is different than when we get prescription insurance, parts of it. But you're also going to have people show up that have seen commercials about this and they want to ask questions about Medicare Advantage plans. And, we kind of know what we're talking about when I talked about that a little earlier about the Medicare Advantage plans. If somebody wants to change, flip from one side to the other, we need to make sure we're very careful about explaining the ramifications of that. Because some people get confused thinking that they can have, an Advantage plan and their supplement plan. Because all they're really, and I've seen people like that, all they're looking for is a dentist. It's, in the sense of they're just chasing the Advantage plan because they want a dentist. And there's other ways to go about that. The other we saw a lot of in open enrollment last year with people who were on Advantage plans looking at what Advantage plan they wanted to get on for the next year. They were looking for very specific extra benefits. And the big one last year was, how big of a grocery card can I get? And it was, they wanted to base their choice of their healthcare insurance on how much, whether it was a
$25.
$25 card, a $50 card, or a $100 card. That's what they were making their decision upon. And again, there's a point where it's, oh, we explain, well, this is what's going to happen with your health insurance. And literally they're like, they don't care. And it's like, they're just looking for that. And we'll be able to figure that out, as far as we'll have a sheet with what are the different extra benefits for them, even though the plan finder tells you it's kind of deep down in there. So we'll make a summary sheet. So, and you'll have something that'll be helpful for that. Sometimes it's a lead a horse to water situation, but in the end, it's their choice and their decisions on that. And I'm not saying that was everybody who walked in the door, but there was definitely, we ran into a few of those clients last year. As I said, many of them, I for years have started a conversation. If they say come in with a Medicare Advantage plan and they're looking to see what the best option is, my initial conversation starts like this. So this year, were you able to see the doctors you needed to see? Okay. Did you have any problems getting any coverage that you healthcare coverage that you needed? And if the answers to that was no, we had no problems with that or that, that's your starting point to go, well, let's check and make sure your doctors are still in network for next year and things like that. So, and if all the other things line up okay, then, they're probably going to be pretty happy with next year's plan. We'll know in a week or so, once we get to October 1st, if there's drastic changes in some of these plans. And if there are, we're going to see people, jump ship and go to another plan if they happen to be on that. Much like the Silver Script plan, a prescription plan that's $5.40 jumping to $28, we're going to see people jumping ship.
Yeah.
On that. So,
Randy, I have 4 questions when you get a chance.
4 questions. Okay. Do I take the share screen off for a second, Lenore? So we
Sure. Oh, I'm sorry.
See Steve more clearly.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The first one is these are all regarding Advantage plans, since we're on that topic.
Good.
Number 1, do Part D late enrollment penalties or IRMA penalties apply to Advantage plans?
Yes, they do.
Okay, there we go.
Give me a harder question than that. That was easy.
All right, I got a harder one for you. I've read various things about the flexibility of HMO-POS plans.
Right.
Where in the notes it talks about it sounds like on the one note, well, you just get a referral from your doctor. I've heard that's not quite that easy.
I'm sure it's not.
I'm sure it's not. And let's just say this, there are a lot of things, especially those special benefits. We get calls all the time saying, hey, they said they provide transportation, or hey, I was supposed to get this, over-the-counter medication paid for. And, it's like, it's not that simple and not that easy.
So it doesn't.
In theory, an HMO POS means you could go to someone like a specialist out of network and it's still paid for if your primary doctor refers you. And that's what you're talking about.
So it's like
but I'm sure behind the scenes they're saying, don't you dare refer anybody.
Okay, all right. So it really, even though there is that supposed flexibility there, that flexibility can be pretty restricted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Third question is, it used to, in my last understanding, I could be totally confused, was that when you go out of network with an HMO, all righty, you just have no insurance. End of story.
Correct.
When you go out of network with a PPO, all right, my understanding is that they do this thing where when you go out of network once, it doesn't matter after that where you are, you're considered out of network for the rest of the year, regardless of where you get your care. Is that still true?
Right, but let me caveat it.
Okay.
So if you're on a PPO and you stay in network, and let's say the in-network out-of-pocket max is $5,000, you're fine. If you go out of network once, your out-of-pocket maximum is maybe say $10,000, which is the out-of-network one. So now, because you went out of network once, you're now on the second out-of-pocket maximum. Now, what I want to say very specifically is that your pricing, your nickel and dimes, $20 for a specialist in network, $40 out of network or so. If you go out of network once, but then you go to a specialist that's in network, you're still paying the $20 in network price for them. You're not paying out of network prices for everybody. You're just paying out of network prices for the out of network people. The only change is your out of pocket maximum cap went to the big number.
Okay, so the co-insurance, the co-pays do not change.
That's correct. It's a good question because it's never been asked before, and it's a very good question to ask because that I could see how somebody might get confused on that. So,
last question is the rules as I understand them regarding when you can switch Advantage plans is you get that 1 year deal from the first 12 months grace period. If you want to switch, you can in or out. The other was if it's after that though, you can still switch back, but you have to switch back to the same company and the same plan that you originally bought your supplement from. Is that
yes.
still?
Yeah, that's so effective. Let me explain it in a little more detail. So let's say you've been in Medicare for 5 years and you've had a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medicare supplement Medigap policy the whole time. You decide in open enrollment, you're going to try out a Medicare Advantage plan next year. So you go switch to that Medicare Advantage plan and you obviously get rid of your supplement plan. You have a 12-month period. So anytime in that calendar year that you could say, wait a second, this sucks, get me the heck out of this. You could go back to original Medicare and you can go back to having the exact same Medicare supplement plan, same company, same letter, same plan that you had. You don't got a guaranteed issue right to go shopping or anything. You have to go back to that exact plan. Okay. But you got that 12-month window that you could do that. I have heard and dealt with clients and been told by brokers it's a pain in the neck to get back. But it's not that it's impossible. It's just a lot of paperwork.
Does the same apply for Part D if you
could go back to a Part D. That's a very good question, Jan. I know you go back and you get a Part D. I don't know if that means you have to go back to the exact. I really don't know that, whether you have to go back to the exact Part D or you can pick one. I don't know. Great. That's the stumper. You got me on a question there. The stumper. I had a client last year who came in the situation. They had picked the Medicare Advantage plan and they wanted to go back, but they had in their head, they go, well, my pricing for my gap policy has gotten too high. So I'm going to get a Medicare Advantage plan so I can get back off of it, thinking they could go back and shop for a new Medicare Advantage plan, a Medicare supplement plan. They can't. You got to go back to the same one. So, and the company has to take you back. So that's just the rule. So, good questions.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I love questions.
I have another one for you. When you were talking about some Medicare Advantage plans that are more from a large company where it's not a regional plan, are there local employers where we would be seeing their retired employees show up that is there specific companies around town that
let me answer that in parts. One is yes, there are some companies in town, some places that do that. And the city of Charlottesville does that.
Oh.
So now to put the second part of that question is because they're on that plan, they're not shopping. And so they're not probably showing up at your desk. So that's the second part of it.
This is just random, but I've been seeing for the new to Medicare people, a lot more of them through their work have been on Advantage plans as regular, Advantage type plans through their work. So they're more used to staying in networks.
Well, yeah, Medicare Advantage plans, when it comes to networks and copays and out deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums, that's how most employer plans work.
Right.
And so that's what they're used to.
So yeah, so it's like they're seem more okay with being in an Advantage plan because that's what their regular insurance is like.
Yeah, they have an HMO or a PPO plan now.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Now, again, if they're really sit down and listen to a new to Medicare counselor walk through the benefits of original Medicare and what
right.
the pricing is on that, most of them are like, oh, okay, yeah, that's the world of
Right.
difference.
I understand. Yeah. So and their insurance through work is not actually working like the Medicare Advantage plans where they're getting told, no, you can't have a heart surgery.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I seem to have that problem with my insurance, but yes.
Yeah.
Again, I come back, I cannot stress this enough, is that Medicare Advantage plans are vastly different around the country, not just in what they offer, but how well they work. I mean, it's something like Humana's denial rate of all services is 9% on Advantage plans. Kaiser, which is out west and stuff, is like 1.2%. So, I mean, if you were on Kaiser out, you probably have had no problems getting access to the health care you needed to have. And some of those plans, and I say this because we're going to watch out, it's going to creep up on us here one year. Some of those plans pay for the Medicare Part B premium for the beneficiary. And so we had a plan that was sort of hybriding it last year, but it was a little fuzzy about how that was going to work. And we didn't see a lot of people go on to it. But, that's eventually we're going to see a plan show up on the plan finder that does something like that. Which obviously, if you got somebody worried about a $50 grocery card, and that's where they're making their decision on, having your $174 and some odd cents paid for every month by the Advantage plan and still having a zero premium, you're like, I'll take that any day. That's what they're thinking. So, but it still has been, and eventually it'll change maybe, but it still has been, I hear the statement way too often from people that walk in the door going, get me the heck off this plan. So as I said, as a concept, I don't have anything wrong with Medicare Advantage plans. As it works out in our area, it's different. Yeah, Ruth, I'm so sorry. You're muted. Hang on, Ruth, you're muted.
I got the new to Medicare for 2025 booklet from the CMS.
Mm-hmm.
Are the rates that they have in the back of that booklet going really applicable for 2025?
So, because it'll show you how much the rates are for the Plan Ds and those things.
No, not for Plan B. It only has Advantage plans and it has D.
Yeah.
The premium. It doesn't tell you what the formulary is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mostly so. That will be right. It just depends on the. There are times where, let's say, in fact, I knew last year our zero premium plan in a different zip code in the state of Virginia was like $1.20. So it is accurate, but there may be a little bit of a variety. I have not got a chance to look at that myself. I pulled up myself. They don't send me one. But for 2025, yeah.
The reason I ask is there's nothing that has only a $2,900 out-of-pocket max in this list
for the
Advantage plans.
So that one we had last year for 2,900 in network and out of network, probably jumped. Well, and as I said, we've had one phone call yesterday or the day before. Lenore picked it up. and it was a guy going, I need to change my Advantage plans because my out-of-pocket maximums went through the roof. So we'll see. We'll get better data as we get into next. Once we hit October 1st, we'll have cleaner data. So, but that's yeah. They're the Advantage plans are their own separate beast. But when we go back to this thing about Part D's, it's hard. We're going to have to wait and see. It's hard to tell what we're going to have. So I have one more very quick and important thing, and I was sending out an email on this because I know we're over time. But let me get on here because this is important. This is a change. It's not a change in the rule, but it's a change in the enforcement of the rule, where we've gotten away for years doing it a different way. The state VICAP office, basically it is that at DARS, they have a new director that's over the state VICAP director. And so I think they're getting a little more like, hey, you guys got to follow these by the book. And one of them has to do with, we're supposed to go through on the SHIP TA Center, the privacy training module. And Lenore and I just did it yesterday because we just found out about it earlier this week that it was like, oh, no, you all have to do that now. It's like, okay, we haven't had to do it even though it was written, we were supposed to do it. It was like, just sign the confidentiality agreement and be done with it. But now, and I'll send out an email with the walkthrough here, but you go to the SHIP TA Center where you did do your tests and stuff, so log in, go to the courses, and then down in the courses under special topics, there's a privacy and confidentiality agreement. I'm going to send you a document with this walkthrough here. And you click on it and you go to take it. Now, here is the thing you want to know. So you click here to start. Down here, there's a little button here that allows you to speed the training up. So, and I did the training at like 1.5 and did the test and did it under 20 minutes. So it allows you to go up to 2 if you want, to do the training. You just got to click through it all and stuff. It is nothing that you have not heard before and nothing that new or knowing. It's just, and why the difference is that before it was like, oh, just sign the confidentiality agreement. But I guess they've changed things on the SHIP TA Center where it actually marks that when you logged in, went through this training all the way. And so you got to log in and go through this. So
Randy, mine looks like the volume control.
Yeah, it does. But if you click on it, it allows you to change the setting here. Let me come off of this real quick. Show you live. Am I still logged in?
Randy, is there any email required like there is with our test? We got to notify somebody we passed?
No. Just pass it. And then what I'll have you guys do next week is just sign the new confidentiality agreement. Let's see. I'm coming up here live on mine just to show you real quick. If you did take the training using like the newbies use my login to train, and then we found out about this, and it's like, oh wait, the newbies have to go back and do it again because let's see, is this sharing?
Yes.
Okay, good. They have to go back in and run through the thing again so that it marks that they did it. So if I go restart here, and it's going to start this button here. Wait, where'd it go? Right. Oh, it's the button right beside it, the playback.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sorry, I pointed to the wrong one. But yeah, you can speed that up to 2 if you want.
Okay.
So sorry, my little arrow there was in the wrong place. So just run through that. Yeah, George.
Yeah, when you're referring to the test, you mean the little quiz questions at the end? You take those? Is that what
Well,
you're
this
saying?
you can, or you don't have to take the little 10-question quiz, but you can because it's optional.
You just have to go through the actual module.
Yeah, you gotta go through the module. So, yep. And again, it's not a big deal had they told us back in July that we were going to have to do this differently. It's more of a big deal that they said 2 days ago you have to do this. So
They always give us a surprise right before open enrollment, Randy.
yes, they do, but it's irritating, is what it
I
is.
know.
And so, and I don't mind jumping through the hoops they need us to jump through and stuff. It's just tell us what hoops we need to jump through before
Our
we get right up onto
pre-Halloween
open
surprise.
enrollment. Yeah, so that's okay. We'll just jump through those. I am, as I said, I'm very excited. We got a very large number of counselors. I feel good about having, the mall space and the studio space is in person while still running Zoom. That's all, for all you guys, that's all up to you how you want to play that, what works best for you. So that is where we are at, and feel like if anything else comes up that is like, oh dear, we've seen this now, we'll get an email out or something about changing. But I feel like we've covered all the new things and what we should expect this year differently. Don't forget to get on the scheduler. You know, vote early and often. So and then if you can help out with with the newbies by either being a shadow person for them to test, you be a test counselor, or and that's on the October 9th and 10th, or helping out in the first few days of open enrollment if we need an extra person over at the mall to help kind of guide the newbies and get them. It's worked really well because it's just that little bit. We train them and train them and train them, and then there's always that little bit at the end. It's like, oh, okay, let's steer you a little bit here. You didn't quite understand that, and then they're all good to go. So, okay, I know a couple people may have had questions. I know Ruth had some questions. I'll hang around and answer things there. But as far as training, we'll just stop the recording.